Our first presenter is activist, community healer, liberation coach, mother poet, and writer Angelique La Comadre Arroyo. She is originally from Brooklyn, New York. As a child, she moved to Puerto Rico and absorbed the culture and history of the island. Like all of us, there are histories and cultures that form our past and present. She starts out by telling us what drew her to poetry and writing.
Yeah, so I want to say that my love of language started when I was a kid. I was a voracious reader, and my mom made sure I had like volumes of things to read. So words and their connection to human emotion was something that I was always fascinated by. And so when I was younger, English was kind of like my thing. Math and our relationship is troublesome. But English was kind of the way I was able, rather, language was the way I was able to find something to hold the container for the things I was experiencing in my life. And so for me, a lot of the themes were around the background that I come from, which had a lot of abuse and a lot of challenge. And I needed a safe way to express how I was feeling, because the world around me, whether it was adult or like, no one had the space for me. So I found it in my notebook.
Mhm.
And I would write, like I would spend, when I couldn't sleep, which was like 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I would spend it just writing. Sometimes that would look like words that would move together, and other times it was more like prayers, because they were trying to find the words to express the pain and also my hope.
Mhm.
So for me, it was like this thing around words being secretly, for me, the tool that I was using to heal, and simultaneously like reflect back to me that I'm still a human being and my life is worth living.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you something. Are there some themes that it's easier for you to write in Spanish versus English or English versus Spanish?
That's actually depending the inspiration that hits me. So for me, the inspiration is almost like it's this whirlwind that's coming in the air, and it hits right at a moment where what I hear is Spanish, and the thing the inspiration is striking me as something that wants to be communicated in Spanish. So that's when I'll write it in Spanish.
Okay.
And then usually if I'm talking about like identity, or if I'm talking about culture, sometimes I like to interject Spanish in between, just go the whole Spanglish route, because it's part of who I am as a person.
Our next presenter is Lorena Garcia. She is a junior and theater major at the Philadelphia School for the Creative and Performing Arts. She has loved poetry since she was a preteen. Poetry is her form of expression. She uses writing as a way of organizing her thoughts and connecting with an audience. What themes?
Um, I don't really remember. I think at the time I was just writing to please the audience, and I wasn't really writing to help me. Because when I did perform, it was a writing club, like an after school, like little writing club. And I only joined it because the rest of the clubs didn't really seem exciting to me. So I joined, and the only times that I ever really wrote about my emotions were when we were doing like warm-ups in the beginning of the hour that we were with her. And I wasn't really writing to help myself, and I was actually like putting thought into something. It was more just so that people would like it. But I don't do that anymore. When I'm writing, like I actually do it to help me out, and I put it in a way that I'm pleased with. Yeah, yeah.
I know that's right.
Okay, and now what are some of the themes that you're writing about?
Um, I think I just write about like my own experiences. If not my own experiences, then what I see around me. Because we all know what's going on with the Black Lives Matter movement and things like that. So I have a poem about the Black Lives Matter movement. I have a poem about my experience with my name. You know, my name's Lorena, not everyone can pronounce that. So I have a poem about my name. I have a poem about how I speak Spanish. Like things that either I directly go through or things that I see around me is what I typically write about.
That's something that a lot of us are still dealing with, you know, how to correctly pronounce our names, you know. Where do you want to take this, Lorena? Will poetry, you believe, will always be a part of your creativity?
I think so, yeah, definitely. Because I feel like like you said, I'm a theater major, and acting is a lot of fun, and acting is something that I do want to pursue in the future. But poetry is so much more personal, and poetry is so much more of like, well, I'm feeling this way, so how do I get it out type of thing, versus a character is feeling this way, this is how they get it out. So, yeah.
Yeah. And you also want to pursue maybe an acting career or, you know, drama?
No.
Talk to us about that.
So, there's a lot to talk about. My first play was in third grade. Who did I play? I played Kate and Annie. And after that, like acting was something that was just so much fun for me. And then when I learned that like I can have fun while getting paid for it, like, whoa,
that helps.
I kind of have to do this now. You know what I mean? And now that like I go to school just so that I can act, I'm planning on going to college just to act. You know what I mean? So yeah, acting is something that is really, really fun for me. And the fact that I can get paid from doing it is great.
Angelique, let's start with you. Why don't you give us a sample of one or two of your, let's say, recent works?
Okay, I do want to take a moment and give a mad shout out to the chat that is just celebrating you, Lorena. They got like coming in ham, celebrating all your brilliance, and it's so exciting. There's nothing more powerful than when you have a village and a community supporting you, supporting your work. And to me, like I'm reading, I'm like, yes, y'all, that's right. That's what I'm talking about. We celebrate each other and we hold each other to the utmost luminous expression. So I just want to point that out because it's beautiful. Yes. Sure, I will. Let me get my Evernote. Actually, this is not as recent, but this is a piece that to me was really important. And it was posted at the Lancaster Community Foundation for a while when they were doing a project called Identities Unedited. I am multi-rooted. My mother, Puerto Rico, my grandmother, Africa, my father, Spain, my grandfather, Israel. Brooklyn, New York, rocked my cradle. Puerto Rican, Juyarican, New Yurican, seen roots in El Borinquen. Golden yellows and crimson reds, greens that shout, I am flourishing. I am dark and light, I am hard and soft. My heels are high, my converses are low. I am a healer of the soul and creatrix. I am a mother of two or maybe many. I shape words to utter a story. Trust, honesty, and transparency is how I flow. Justice is my code. My prayer is wind. My tears are gold. The scars I hold, no one will ever know. I create medicine with words, plants, and intuitive wisdom. It was lighting Shabbat candles I found my way home, deeply understanding the scope of oppression, repression, and depression. There are layers and layers of stories untold. Sometimes I move through the underworld, through pain, through sorrow, holding space for things not solved. Back to center, recalling all that is old, owning heritage, ethnicity, flipping it and building it forward. I'm not a novelty nor entertainment because my culture is different or misunderstood. Assimilate for decades and tell me what is left of you. Freedom has a fragrance like mango and avocado, like the soft mist of coconut water, the hum of the A train, the sound of familiar laughter, food seasoned with stories that smell like wondrous, rooty earth. I, I, I can't begin to tell you where it starts or where it ends, things blocked that long ago to be forgotten because memories burn like fire scorching the skin. And now, I dedicate my life to the work set before me. I cry out in the desert. I appeal to the heart. I stand for solidarity. I stand for the heart. I stand for dance. I stand for expression. I stand for expansive living. I stand for the earth, for her children, for her teens, for her men, for her women, and for all beings. I am multi-rooted. Thank you.
When did you write that work?
I want to say that was, I don't know, a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
a follow-up with that in terms of another work?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is to the expression that sometimes, when my mother passed away last year of pancreatic cancer, and for a minute that felt like the floor dropped and I couldn't find the words, and I couldn't make cognitive sense out of the fact that her physical body was no longer here. Although you know that death happens and all those things, it's still something different. So I wrote, when I finally caught my breath and the grief moved into form, I was able to create this, and this is what came out. My mother is gone. My mother is gone. No, she didn't disappear or leave. She transitioned. Her body doesn't exist in this realm. I feel it in my bones. It's like an ache. My witchy ancestors came for me in a dream. It's my turn. I am the eldest of many. Forget about the 12 sons of Jacob. I'm thinking the 13 daughters of Miriam. Let go of all the 13, and let's do 13 non-binary beings, all of it. All of it. I sometimes imagine lineage, the Inca one, the one who will give a voice, who will listen to the whispers, the ones who will rise. The surge is real. Even my eldest felt the shift. Her and her brother's eldest children will feel it as well. This is what it means when a matriarchal line shifts. My lineage is matriarchal with big femme energy. I irritatingly explained the other day why I don't want to grow a tub or why I didn't want to change my own oil. I have nothing to prove, and for God's sake, I need a break. My mother is gone in this realm. I feel it. What was fractured family is no more. Pieces remain. The reason why she went to school, the reason one of my sisters became a hospice nurse, the reason I became an advocate and an activist. It's the lineage of healers. We go way back. We are brujas. We are wounded healers. We came. Our gift is healing and our power is love. Thank you.
Lorena, what do you have for us this morning?
So I have the same poem that I performed last week when racism is a drug, the one about police and the Black Lives Matter movement. And then I have another one called My Spanish, and that one's just about my experience being bilingual. Yeah.
Okay, start.
So the first one is, the thing is that the one in Spanish is very lighthearted, and that one's very like soft, but the other one is very dark. So I just want to give you guys a choice really which one you want to hear first, because I don't want to ruin it.
Just bring it, sis. Just bring it.
Yes.
Yeah.
We just want to hear you, so.
Bring it. Teach us to build capacity for them both.
Okay. When you encounter a racist white cop, they will most likely be bald and sweaty. You will notice something wrong with this one. This one isn't like the ones you saw in the picture books in kindergarten. This one already doesn't like you. It's not in your nature to automatically think of presumption of guilt, so you try to figure out what could be wrong with you. Maybe you smell funny. Maybe you have something in your teeth. Maybe your music is too loud. You can barely understand what he's saying. His face looks more red than healthy as he speaks slurred words of intolerance and aggression to you. You realize that hero can so be villain, but you are a mere background character. You are an extra in this narrative of POLICE versus POC. How could this happen to you? Your mind morphs into forbidden forest. Your heart feels a fee-fi-fo-fum, and the giant's feet are now yours. You notice his eyes are red. He is shaking, and the ignorance in his speech replaces the foam when you connect the dots. You will want to say, white cop on drugs. When was your last overdose? You walk through life looking through eyes of black and brown, and you don't see pupil. The very pupils that attracted and sucked in trauma, their pupils are black holes. That at ages when you were learning your times tables, they were learning how to walk in the street, how to use paca items as weapons, how to speak to officers like you. But officers like you don't see pupil, you see gun barrel. Officer, your eyes are thermal cameras. You equate melanin with danger because the warmer the color, the closer the peril, right? You can predict the future because you just knew George Floyd's forged check was so risky, so your armed melon blue. You can see through walls because Breonna Taylor's sleeping body was such a threat to you. She looked so beautiful resting, so you gave her the gift of rest forever, right? Would you even consider yourself an addict? I know that stress can make you aggressive and violent, but I will not sympathize with you. This is what you call black and brown people, and as a brown woman, I can assure you that we are nothing of the sort. I don't think your Pepto-Bismol is strong enough. Your senses have dangerously heightened. They strip you of your humanity. You strip us of our humanity. So, officer, I will ask again, would you even consider yourself an addict? Allow me to paint the picture. You sneak into the guest bathroom of your 4,000 square foot home. You snort the lines of animosity and down the tablets of prejudice just enough to make you feel good. The drugs make you feel good. Officer, do you share the drugs with your children? Do your children know that daddy thinks they're so beautiful he can never value anyone who doesn't look like them? Do you even bother to hide your addiction? Do you even bother to hide your addiction? Do you even bother to hide your addiction? Officer, you are a groundbreaking scientific discovery. As far as we know, intoxication has never been contagious, but your little high drops bodies like dominoes. Your hatred for people who bleed red just like you is beyond human understanding. Officer, if you know drugs are deadly, why are you afraid of being sober? Officer, if you know bullets are attracted to melanin, why do you play matchmaker? Officer, if you know exactly how to de-escalate situations, why do you act on impulse? White people were the only ones who were never told to be civil. You scream out, all lives matter, and I don't see color, but go out of your way to dim the light of the Bible. I should really stop calling you officer. You don't honor the oath when you're high.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes. That's right. So good.
How long did it take you to put that one together?
That took a week.
Okay.
That took a week.
All right.
Because right when George Floyd passed away, not passed away, when he was murdered, when George Floyd was murdered, that really hit, and it hit hard. And, you know, since, it's not even just since George Floyd, since the beginning of quarantine, things have just not gotten better at all. So I feel like when George Floyd was murdered, things just kept getting worse. And, you know, you kept hearing about protests, and you kept hearing still about Corona, and you kept hearing about all these terrible things. And I didn't know how to function anymore. So that came about.
I think most of us were in that situation. What do you have next for us, Lorena?
The next one is called My Spanish. And
okay.
Yeah, this one's about just my experience being bilingual. My name is Lorena. I'm second generation US American, Dominican on my mom's side and Puerto Rican on my dad's. Bilingual. English is my second language, but I think in both. My Spanish has always been my favorite personality trait. The wiring of my lips and tongue will never feel like barbed wire, but everything more than a chain-linked fence. You will never be able to clearly follow one chain when looking at it up close, but stepping back will prove that structure does not come without confusion. As I stand and I speak, my ancestors jump for joy, grateful that through centuries of pain and struggle, I sing their words of loss into words of love, grateful that no matter who tries to tell me where my home is, I will never forget where I come from, grateful that my parents carefully sculpted my name, so call me by it. pieced it together syllaba por syllaba until it perfectly delineated this thing that is me, trying to get rid of the stutter, trying to enunciate, trying to get through at least half a Bad Bunny song without fumbling. Mi español no es perfecto. Todavía me pongo nerviosa hablando con mi familia. Imagínate la ansiedad que tengo hablando con ustedes. The pride and uncertainty in my voice are constantly at war with each other. When a white person tells me I have an accent, when I try to speak proper English, I use soft R's as mouthwash. But when another Latino tells me I have an accent, when I try to speak proper English, I might as well call them primo. This language is a system. Form en mi corazón y salen from my mouth and vibrate to mis manos y mis piernas until the person I'm speaking with can feel the Caribbean breeze. Papá Puerto Rico me llame desde el morro cada vez que sustituyo leje con el L. Y mamá República Dominicana me aplaude cuando mis caderas replican longitudes de onda de la música típica. My Spanish is like Play-Doh, easily manipulated by whichever side of the family I'm with, which friends I'm around, what music I listen to, or whichever accent shines more that day, but can never, ever lose its vibrancy, funk, volume, and spirit. For my Spanish is not textbook, it's not clean cut, it's not glossy, it's not to the school board standards, but that's besides the point. The point is, my Spanish is local. Mi español honestly jumps back and forth between being correct and not. My Spanish is un revolú. But despite every grammatical error, every fumbled word, every correction from someone of the motherland, and every single ounce of self-doubt in my body, nunca cambiaré mi estilo para nadie.
Yes.
Gracias.
Damn straight.
Yeah, I just want to say everybody has an accent, all right? In Spanish and in English. You know, if you ever speak to people from the South, you know, they have a different accent. From New York, a Brooklyn accent, you know?
There's such a thing. There's such a thing.
Mine comes out when I'm pissed off. So,
Beautiful.
yeah, that was really great. And I gotta say that, Lorena, I think your parents are your biggest fans.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
And supporters, okay, which is great, you know. And Angelique, any consejos for Lorena as her life is unfolding?
You know, I have two kids, and they are 27 and 23. And the way I view your showing up in the world, Lorena, is not, so I'm anti-ageism, right? Like this idea that everything you are and everything you need already exists inside of you. And that part of our work is to protect the very thin boundaries that exist between us and others, between somebody's opinion or comment of a thing to like your personal transmission. And I want to say that it really is an honor to be on the earth at the same time as you're bringing your medicine that will bring healing to the world and healing to yourself. My biggest thing, and I say this even when I'm talking, I do poetry classes with little people, which are my favorite people to do poetry with, because for them there's no rules. One of the things I teach them as early as possible is to protect their magic. The world will want you to contort in a million different ways. Some well-intentioned and some so not well-intentioned. At the end of the day, it does not matter, because your responsibility is toward always honoring your magic and how you bring it. And that's always worth fighting for. That's always worth protecting. That's always worth taking a stand for. And so you seem to have amazing community surrounding you, and know that on this end of the street, you know, in Columbia, Pennsylvania. I say that, yeah, I'm in Columbia, Pennsylvania. You have, I'm not an ally, I'm your sister. chapter in the journey, and need your wisdom as much as we teach each other that elder wisdom is sacred. So is the wisdom you bring to the table, and don't let anybody ever tell you any different.
Thank you so much.